I was sitting in my car surrounded by sand and soldiers when I received my divorce notice. We had been married for almost 4 years. For almost a year and a half of that time, I had been in a hot, dry country on the other side of the world. She couldn't take it anymore, and I understood her completely. I didn't even try to talk her out of it. Being a military spouse is the second hardest job in the world. Being a parent is much harder. My home was in Ponca City, Oklahoma. That's where I grew up, met Lisa Thompson, and married her. We were each other's first love. She was the first and only girl I dated in high school and college. After college, I went into the Army and she went to college and became a nurse. We got married after she graduated and served at Fort Belvoir, Virginia. We served there for a little over a year when I received orders to go overseas. Lisa decided to return home to Ponca City rather than stay at Belvoir. She started working at the hospital almost as soon as she arrived. When my year of overseas service ended, I returned to Belvoir and Lisa joined me. We spent a wonderful 13 months together before I received orders to return overseas. Lisa returned to Ponca City once again. Neither of us was happy about this second separation, but we realized it was necessary for military service. I had been home for about 6 months when I received a letter from Lisa informing me that she could no longer tolerate the separation. I married you to be with you every day and every night. We have been married almost 4 years, and for more than a quarter of that time, you have been half a world away. I can't live like this. Please understand that I love you, but this loneliness is driving me crazy. In this letter, I enclose the divorce papers. If you love me, if you value my happiness, please sign them. I wrote her a long letter expressing my sadness that she felt the way she did, but that I understood her completely. I told her that I wanted her to be happy, and if divorcing me would result in that, then so be it. I told her I loved her and signed the papers. A few months after receiving the divorce notice, I returned to the States and was stationed in Washington, D.C. at the Pentagon, which was practically next door to Fort Belvoir. She was still stationed in Ponca City, and I assumed she was working at the hospital. I was tempted to call her, but decided against it. Why open old wounds, I asked myself. I had earned an associate's degree prior to my military service, and through hard work, correspondence courses, and classes at the University of Maryland, I had earned my degree. It was a Monday morning and I had just arrived at my office in the Pentagon. I was sipping my first cup of coffee and going over my schedule for the day. The call came in at 8:45. My father had suffered a massive heart attack and died. By mid-afternoon, I was flying home. There is no commercial air service to Ponca City, so I flew into Oklahoma City, OKC, and rented a car. My brother Matthew, Matt, sister Tina, and their spouses were with my mom when I entered the house. Matt was on the police force and had been since he was 21 years old. Tina, like my mom, was a teacher. I immediately walked over to my mom, who was sitting on the couch between Matt and Tina. She saw me, and we both started crying. Matt got up so I could sit down and hug my mom. When we both calmed down, she told me that the heart attack happened while he was in the garage cleaning the insides of his pride and joy, his 1957 Chevy Bel Air convertible. He died in that car, and he didn't want it any other way. She was almost smiling as she said it. The next few days were spent making final preparations. Dad was a veteran, so the Army took most of the worry off Mom. We three kids didn't make any decisions. She and Dad discussed what each of them wanted, and she did just that. The only request she made of me was that I wear my dress uniform to the funeral. It was still hanging in my bedroom closet. I hadn't needed it yet, either overseas or in Washington. It just needed to be cleaned and ribbons and badges attached. The morning of the funeral came. Mom looked at me, walked over, and brushed imaginary lint off my chest. Then she stopped, looked up at me, and kissed me. Your father was proud of you. Later that day, Matt and I stood by the casket and greeted people passing by. We hadn't stood there long at all when Lisa, my ex-wife, showed up. I reached out my hand to shake hers, but she ignored it and hugged me. I'm sorry, Michael. To everyone, I'd always been Michael, not Mike. I loved your father. Thank you. Me too. She pretended to want to say something else, but didn't. The end of the day came and the family gathered at Mom's house, eating the massive amounts of food that friends had filled the kitchen with. Mom was incredibly strong during all of this. The sun was already setting when the phone rang. Mom and Dad still had a landline. Tina picked up the phone. Hello? A pause. Hold on. Michael, it's for you. I took the phone from her and she looked at me and raised her eyebrows. Hi, I said. Hi, Michael. Hi, Lisa. That got the attention of the whole room. Can we talk? I don't think we have anything to talk about. You've made your decision, and it's probably best for both of us. I'm not so sure anymore. Well, that's already water under the bridge. I have an early morning flight, so I'll be heading to Oklahoma City soon. I'll be spending the night there, so I've got to go. Where are you serving? She asked before I could hang up. Listen, Lisa, I don't have a lot of time to spend with my family. Thanks for coming over today. Bye. I hung up the phone, turned around, and everyone looked at me. We're divorced, it's over. I'm fine, she's fine. I told them. Now I need to change and pack. I have to leave soon. Soon, I was packed and ready to go. There were hugs, kisses, and handshakes all around, and I finally made it to my rented accommodation. The next day, I was back in Washington, D.C. One of the good things I got from Lisa was an appreciation for classical music, especially Beethoven and Bach. The other representative of the three Bs, Brahms, had never been a particular favorite of mine. 2 weeks after I returned to Washington, the National Symphony Orchestra presented a program of several works by Beethoven. Among them was Bagatelle, as well as Symphony No. 7 Op. 92. It was an eclectic program that also included works by Copland and Bernstein. Tickets were hard to get, but the Washington Military District was usually able to get tickets to some of the larger events in the area, so I went to the Recreational Services office and was able to get one ticket. The night of the concert came and I went to the Kennedy Center. I had been there before and really enjoyed it. The first half of the program consisted of Beethoven. At intermission, I bought myself a drink and went back to my seat. Other audience members were returning to their seats as well. There was a couple in my row who were walking down to their seat somewhere to my right. The woman was walking ahead of the man. I stood up to make it easier for them to pass. When the woman was directly in front of me, she stepped on my foot. Stiletto heels, if applied to the top of the foot, can cause a lot of pain. I shrieked loudly, causing her to lose her balance and fall on top of me, causing me to lean back against the back of the seat. She, losing her balance, fell into my lap. I have no idea how I managed not to fall and spill my drink. We just sat there looking at each other. I loved inhaling her scent. The perfume she used was Taboo. My ex-wife used to use it, and I always liked it. "How's your leg?" she finally asked. "Not bad." We sat like that for a few seconds, looking at each other until she spoke again. "You know, we're gonna have to stop seeing each other like this." "Why?" I asked. "Are you a pervert?" she asked. "Pretty much." "I like perverts," she said. We heard someone clear their throat. We glanced over. It was her escort. She gave me one last glance and stood up. She smiled and moved down the row to her seat. When the concert was over, we all walked outside. I found myself behind her. I looked at her chaperone and didn't see him. I patted her on the shoulder. She turned around and recognized me. "Taboo?" I asked. "Yes. How do you know?" "It's my favorite." "Mine too." "Where's your friend?" "He's somewhere behind us in the crowd." "Your husband?" "God, no." "Serious relationship?" "No." In that case, do you give out your phone number? Rarely. I'm a pretty rare guy. She laughed. You're just a perv. You said so yourself. You said you like perverts. I said I like some perverts. The people around us were showing interest in our conversation. Some of them giggled. Others said, tisk, 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 tisk. Tisk, 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 tisk. We walked across the hall to the front door. She paused. I'd better wait for my friend. Would you like some company? For what, 30 seconds? He can't be far behind. She laughed. In that case, I think I'll be going. It was nice of you to step on me. She laughed again. And it was nice for me to spend some time on your lap. I laughed and waved, walking out one of the many doors. I looked back and she waved back at me. It had been almost a month since I'd gone to a Beethoven concert, and I was ready for a new one. It didn't have to be Beethoven. Any classical music concert would do. I checked the Kennedy Center schedule and saw that the following week there would be a concert devoted to the music of Maurice Ravel. I went to the Recreation Services office to find out how to get a ticket. There was one left there. I took it. Holding out the ticket to me, she said, "We were only able to get 2 of these tickets. The seats are arranged together, so you will be sitting next to the colonel's wife." I was a staff sergeant at the time. Soldiers and officers, even wives, rarely walk in the same circle. At my job, I socialized with 2 colonels and various lieutenant colonels and majors. At the Pentagon, captains and lieutenants were even rarer than staff sergeants. I never even met a colonel's wife. I didn't care, though, because I was going to listen to music. The night of the concert came, I put on one of my 2 suits and went to the concert. I had already sat down in my seat and was reading the program when I smelled something. Taboo. I looked up and there she was. I stood up and spoke. "I thought you said you weren't married." "No." "I was told the colonel's wife would be sitting next to me." "My mother is married to a colonel." She sat down and explained that her mother had gotten a ticket but had not been able to use it. "By the way, my name is Connie Self." She held out her hand. I took it. "Michael Carter." "So Mike, do you like Ravel?" "Mike?" No one had ever called me Mike, but I didn't bother correcting her because when she said it, it sounded like, "I want you to beat my brains out." Yes, especially Gaspard de la Nuit. We talked through the whole program. At intermission, we had a drink in the lobby and talked some more. The program ended with Bolero, which some consider the most boring work ever written, and others the most sensual. I am one of the latter. After the beginning, I glanced back and forth at Connie Self and caught her glance at me a couple of times. Eventually, it was over, and I decided that if it had affected her sensually, she was hiding it well. I walked her to her car. She unlocked the door, and I opened it for her. She started to get in, but turned to me. "Aren't you going to ask me for my phone number?" I looked at her. I had asked for it the first time we met, but that was before I knew she was the colonel's daughter. "Listen," I said. "I'm a staff sergeant. You're the colonel's daughter. I'm sure your father wouldn't approve of you getting involved with someone like me. Who says you have to get involved in a relationship? Friendship doesn't depend on rank." "That's not what I meant." "What did you mean?" "I just—" She grinned at my discomfort, got in her car, and drove off. Maybe you just screwed up big time with Staff Sergeant Michael Carter, I thought to myself. 3 days later, I answered the phone at the office. "Special Operations Division, Sergeant Carter. How can I help you?" "You can help me by writing down 10 numbers." She said it, and as she spoke, I could almost smell the forbidden odor she smelled. "I beg your pardon." "You heard me. Now write them down." She began to say them, and I obediently wrote them down. "Now repeat them," she said. I repeated them. "Good boy. Now do you know what to do with them?" "I think I have an idea. Another good boy for you." Keep it up and you might get a gold star. Yes, ma'am. Don't wait too long. She hung up. At first, I wondered how she got my number, but then I realized that her father, like 30,000 other people who worked at the Pentagon, had a Pentagon phone book. That evening, I called the number listed, but there was no answer, so I left a voicemail. The next evening, she called me. You weren't kidding, she said. You told me not to wait too long. She laughed. We started talking. The same thing happened the next night, and the next, and the next. One night, however, was different. Are you ever gonna do it? She asked. Do what? Ask me out on a date. I'd love to, but no buts, damn it. Either you want to or you don't. Which is it? I want to. Then do it. Okay. Do you want to have dinner with me? Sure. When? Tomorrow night? Great. What time? 7. 7. And she gave me her address. She lived in a 2-room apartment. As she showed me around, she seemed particularly proud of her shoe collection. There were very few clothes in the guest bedroom closet. The rest of the closet was filled with shelves. On those shelves were shoes. Hundreds of shoes, and she took great pride in showing them to me. I was glad she didn't live with her parents. I still wasn't sure how they would react to her dating a soldier. We dated for 2 months before we had sex. As a matter of fact, it happened the same night I met her parents. She invited me to have dinner with them. She noticed my hesitation. Come on, Mike. They're not going to eat you. They're normal parents. Curious, of course, because I've never invited anyone over to their house for dinner. Do they know I'm recruited? Would you stop? I'm sorry, it's just one more word about your rank and I'll get angry, so stop. Dinner went surprisingly well. I liked Colonel Jacob's self and his wife Marion, and they seemed to like me. As Connie and I were leaving that evening, her father walked us to the door. His parting words, and I believe them, were, "It was a pleasure to meet you. We hope to see you again." That evening at her apartment, we had a fun time. 14 months later, we were married. 14 months after that, newly promoted Brigadier General Jacob and Mrs. Marion Self had their first grandchild, a girl. We named her Ruth, and she was born in Virginia while I was still serving in the Pentagon. Then another granddaughter, Carrie, who was born in Germany, and finally a grandson, Jacob, in honor of her father. He was born when we were stationed at Fort Lewis, Washington. We started calling them Big Jake and Little Jake. Life was good. Big Jake and Marion retired and moved to Florida, and Connie and I returned to the Pentagon. Connie, the kids, and I were in Florida visiting her parents. Connie and her mother took Ruth and Carrie shopping with them. Big Jake and Little Jake were playing in the backyard, and I was watching them and smiling. The phone rang. There had been an accident. An elderly couple in their new motorhome had crossed the center lane and crashed head-on into a car driven by Connie. Apparently, the old man had a heart attack while driving. He died, but his wife, who was in the back of the house, survived with severe bumps and bruises. The 3 of us rushed to the hospital, but found on the spot that Connie and Marion had passed away. Ruth and Carrie were injured but survived. They were still in the hospital when we buried Connie and Marion. We buried them next to each other. The next 2 months were the hardest of my life. Both of my daughters spent almost 3 weeks in the hospital. Big Jake and I almost lived there. I was heartbroken, but life had to go on. The girls were discharged and we came home. But things weren't the same anymore. For the first time since the Florida trip, the 4 of us had to experience grief all over again. Everywhere we looked, we saw Connie. Clean clothes in a basket she never folded, a homemade robe lying on the bed. There were her clothes hanging in the closet. Being in this house with her presence was almost as bad as losing her a second time. The 4 of us cried for days, but it was even worse for Ruth and Carrie. They didn't get a chance to say goodbye to their mother and grandmother because they were in the hospital and couldn't attend the funeral. It was hard, but I got up every morning, got the kids ready for school, and went to work. It took quite a while before I was productive again. The children missed their mother as much as I did. I didn't immediately realize that being a single parent of three young children was incredibly difficult. 3 years after Connie's death, I retired from the Army. The kids and I moved back to Oklahoma. We bought a nice house near my mother's house. My brother and sister also lived nearby. My children enjoyed spending time with their cousins, my siblings' children. Connie was an only child. It took me a while to settle in, and after a few months, I began to feel anxious. I applied for and got a substitute teaching job at one of our two middle schools. If all went well, I would be hired full-time the following school year. Life went on, but I still missed Connie, as did the kids, of course. One Saturday night, Ruth started complaining of pain in her side. It was getting worse, and I rushed her to the hospital. My sister Tina came to pick up little Jake and Carrie. At the hospital, she was immediately operated on and had her appendix removed. I was going to spend the night with her. She was already asleep, and I fell asleep watching her. Around 2 in the morning, I woke up and sat in the chair next to her bed. I watched as the door slowly opened and light from the hallway began to fill the room. It had been a long time, but I still recognized her. She was still a very attractive woman. "Hi, Lisa," I said. She hesitated. Then it came to her. "Oh my goodness, I didn't know you were here." "Well, I'm here. Come on in." I stood up as she walked over to the bed. "How is she?" she asked. "You should know more about this than I do." "You're right. From the map, she's doing well." "Good." I saw her last name on the intake sheet. There aren't many Carters in town, and I thought she might belong to Matt or Tina. "No, she's mine." "Where's her mother?" "She died over 3 years ago." "Oh, Michael, I'm so sorry." "Yeah, me too." "And you live here now?" "Yes, for the last few months." We just stood there looking at each other. Finally, I spoke up. "Well, I guess I should try to get some sleep." "Sure." And she fell asleep. I woke up around 5. I had a blanket on me. I spent the next 3 days with Ruth. Lisa came over a few times. She and Ruth talked about boys and how they would react to her scar when she put on her swimsuit. "It's a very small scar," Lisa told her. "Besides, when they see how pretty you are, they won't even notice it." Ruth brightened. The first Saturday after Ruth's release, my phone rang. I looked at the number but didn't recognize it and didn't answer. However, the caller left a message. "Hi, it's Lisa. I hope Ruth is still okay. Seems like time spent in the hospital is always worse for the kids." There was a pause. "Can I talk to you, please? There's so much I've wanted to tell you over the years, but I've never been able to. Please, Michael." I listened to the message at least 5 times before I called her. "Hi," she answered. "Hi, it's Michael." "Hi. You wanted to talk?" "Not on the phone, in person." "Okay. Mom's taking the kids to the lake tomorrow. Why don't you stop by my house around 10:30 in the morning? Or do you have to work?" "No, tomorrow's okay. Where do you live?" I gave her the address. "Do you still drink coffee?" "Yes, but decaf now." "Me too." She showed up at exactly 10:30, but she was always punctual. The coffee was already on the table when I opened the door for her. I felt like she wanted to hug me, but changed her mind. I indicated where she should sit. She sat down, took a sip of coffee, and began. "It was 9 months after your first tour abroad. I was having an affair, I was without you and was looking forward to your return. Sammy Young saw me at the mall and spoke to me. Do you remember him?" I shook my head. "He was 2 years older than us in high school." That conversation led to another, and another, and another, and another, and another. Then we moved on to drinks and dinner. After almost 2 months, I slept with him. Once, she sipped her coffee. When you came home, I was terribly afraid you'd find out, but you were so happy to see me that the possibility of my cheating didn't even cross your mind. You may remember that we had a wonderful year. I nodded in agreement. Then you had to go overseas, and I came back here. You were only gone for a couple weeks before he came back. I have no idea how he knew I was back in Ponca City. The thought of being without you for another year was beyond me. Less than a month after you left, I slept with him again and continued to sleep with him for 2 more months. Then I found out I was pregnant, so I asked you for a divorce. I told him, and he left for parts unknown. Since then, I see him around town, but we never talk. After I filed for divorce, I lost the baby. I almost canceled the papers, but I felt so guilty that I didn't. I tried to tell you what I did when you came home from my father's funeral, but you wouldn't let me. Cheating on you was the worst thing I ever did in my life, and I regret it every day. I was selfish and greedy, and I can't justify myself. I loved you when we were young, loved you when I married you, and loved you when I divorced you. All these years I've tried to avoid your family because I was ashamed. We occasionally bump into each other, but nothing more than that. 2 years after our divorce, I met a man in the hospital. His mother had been put in for surgery. We hit it off and got married a year later. 3 years after that, we divorced. From then on, I concentrated on my work. Then I saw Ruth's name in the hospital. As I said, I had avoided your family, but I thought if she needed anything, I could get it for her. I opened her door and there you were. I am rarely surprised and never shocked, but when I saw you, I was shocked. I didn't know how to act or what to say. When I left her room, I walked down the hallway and broke down. I cried for 2 hours. I cried because I was happy you were alive and well. Then I cried because of the stupid thing I did and because of the love I lost. I took a sip of my coffee, which by then was too cold to drink it, as was hers, I supposed. I sat looking at her and tried to think of what to say. I certainly didn't know that she had cheated on me, nor did I know that she had gotten another man pregnant while married to me. Finally, I uttered, I don't know what to say. I always thought you divorced me because you couldn't bear our separation. But you tell me that loneliness wasn't the problem at all. It was a longing. I realize it's loneliness. I loved you enough to let you go because I couldn't bear the thought of you being alone. That's why I agreed to the divorce. But it's hard for me to accept cheating even after all these years. The thought of you having fun with some man while married to me is something I can't bear. I loved you enough to let you go. And while I was crying about losing you, you were carrying someone else's child inside you. I stood up, reached out and took her cup and went into the kitchen. I think you should leave, I said as I walked. Michael, please. Goodbye. She slowly stood up, walked to the door, opened it, and turned to me. Michael, Goodbye. Why in God's name did she have to say that to me? Did it matter after all these years? And why did it have that effect on me? At first I was angry, and then I lost my temper. For 2 weeks I pondered what she had said to me. Then common sense took over. Why should it matter? We had been divorced for years, and I no longer had any feelings for her. The end of the school year was approaching, and it was a stressful time for me, so Lisa took a back seat. Big Jake asked if the kids could come visit him for part of the summer. I told him yes, of course. 3 days after school ended, he flew in. We picked him up at the Oakland airport, and the kids flew back with him. Their visit was to last 2 weeks. Big Jake decided that was all he would handle. I hadn't had much of a social life since Connie's death, and 3 years is a long time. Sure, a few women had come along during that time, but I still missed Connie. My brother and sister tried to set me up with women, but it didn't work out. I mean, there was no spark, no connection. My brother was deputy chief of police by then. One day he came to my house. I had just finished mowing the lawn and was sitting on the porch with a glass of iced tea. He came inside, poured himself a glass, then came out and sat down next to me. We chatted for a few minutes before the real reason for his visit became clear. I wasn't supposed to tell you this, but since it's become public, I guess I can. We've arrested Lisa 3 times in the last few weeks for appearing intoxicated in a public place. Each time my officers tried to bring her into the station, she slapped them and told them to get their hands off her, that she belonged to Michael Carter. The first time she said it, the officer thought it was funny and he told me. Then, she said it the other 2 times as well. Her father posted bail for her, and the district attorney decided not to prosecute. When it happened again last week, she decided to go to an alcohol rehab program in Tulsa. She's there now. I shook my head. Why are you telling me this? Her father thinks it has something to do with you. He had no idea you were back in town until Lisa got drunk and started talking about seeing you and your daughter. When she sobered up, he asked her about it, but she wouldn't discuss it. The last time he remembers her drinking was during your divorce. He told me that she is usually almost a teetotaler. I remember that she and I had a drink, but very rarely. My question is the same. Why are you telling me this? Honestly, I don't. It just seems like she's crying out for help, and you're the person she seems to be crying out for, or for whom. I took a deep breath and told him about the last conversation I'd had with her. Mother of God, he said. Do her parents know? I have no idea, but if she hasn't told them, I'm certainly not going to. We talked until his radio rang and he had to leave. For the next 3 days, I mostly thought about Lisa and what she had done to our marriage. Loneliness versus excitement. Love versus lust. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. I didn't owe her anything, so why was I spending so much time thinking about her? I had no idea. But the next day I called Lisa's father and asked if I could see him and his wife. When I arrived, we shook hands and Lisa's mother offered me iced tea. No one turns down iced tea in the summer in Oklahoma. I hadn't been to this house in years, but as I looked around, I realized nothing had changed. What can we do for you, Michael? He began. I have no idea, I replied. I heard that Lisa was arrested and is in rehab, and I was wondering if there was anything I could do to help. To tell you the truth, we have no idea. Everything was going well until she was arrested the first time. That's when we found out you were back, her father said. We don't know what to do, Michael. She seems to be in a lot of pain and she doesn't want to talk about it. We're getting older, Michael, and we wish we knew what we could do to help her, but we just don't know, said the mother, taking her husband's hand and squeezing it tightly. Would it help if I could see her? I asked. We've talked about it and we're not sure if it will help or hurt, but it's worth a try, said her father. The next day I drove to Tulsa. I checked in at the front desk and was directed to her room. She was sitting in a chair looking out at the garden. She turned to see who was there when she heard the sound of the door opening. Her eyes widened when she saw me. Hi, Michael. I didn't think I'd ever see you again. Why? I assumed you hated me after our last conversation and kicked me out of your house. I don't hate you, Lisa. I've never hated you. But I hate what you did. She stood up, walked over to me, and looked me straight in the eye. I do too, Michael. I hate it with every fiber of my being, but I can't change it. So I've lived with guilt and self-loathing all these years. There were only a few days when I didn't think about it. Those days were few, but they were a blessing. She turned, walked over to her bed and sat on its edge. For a moment she stood still with a detached look. Then she spoke again. Why are you here? I'm not sure. I talked to your parents and… She interrupted me and jumped to her feet. Oh my God, Michael. You didn't tell them, did you? It would have killed them. No, I didn't tell them. I sat down on the windowsill and looked at her. It's up to you if you ever want to. I'll never tell them. Never. They'll be crushed. She sat down on the bed again. It's up to you. There was a pause and she began to cry. Are you okay? I don't know. I thought I was, but now I'm not sure. I started drinking after our last meeting. I wanted to drown myself in alcohol because I thought that way the memories would go away, but it just made it worse. Every detail kept popping up in my head. She paused. Do you remember what you wrote in your letter when you sent the divorce papers? Almost everything. I remember every word. I still have it, and I've reread it at least 1,000 times. You said you'd give me a divorce if it would make me happy. It was all you wanted to do in this life, and the thought of me being single hurt you. And if a divorce would make me happy again, you would gladly sign the papers. I've loved you since the day I met you, you said. Signing these papers is one of the easiest things I've ever done in my life because it will make you happy. And so you signed. I cried when I first read it, and I cry every time I read it now. She turned away and began to cry. For a long time the room was quiet. I sat on the windowsill and watched her. I was powerless to help her. I felt like crying a little myself. I stayed with her until it was time for her to go to dinner. She didn't want to go, but they made her go. She acted like she wanted to hug me, but like before, she was afraid to touch me. When I left, I went straight to her parents' house. Why is she there? I asked. We don't know exactly. It was her idea. She said she had to quit drinking and they would help her. Did she ever have a drinking problem? Never. What was the reason she started drinking? We thought you might be able to answer that question because we don't know. I'm no expert, but I think her problem is that she's hiding from something. I think she should go home. I don't think they can help her there. I gave my opinion. I agree, her father said. And I'm not so sure, her mother said. With your permission, I'd like to visit her tomorrow. Of course, they said in unison. I was there early the next morning. She was having breakfast in the cafeteria. Her eyes lit up when she saw me. You're back, she said, smiling broadly. Yeah. Do you want coffee? Yes, I do. But not here. Where? At your parents' house. Why don't we have lunch with them? Are you serious? Yes. What do you have to do to check out of here? I don't know. Do you want to stay here? Not if you want me to leave. Then let's leave. We went to her room, gathered our things, and walked up to the front desk. I'm going home, Lisa announced, and we got out. As soon as she got into my car, she called her parents. Hi, Mom. I'm on my way home. A pause. Michael's bringing me. Pause. We'll be there soon. Love you. Bye. The rest of the drive passed in silence. Neither of us said anything, but I could feel her watching me every mile of the way. It was like she was trying to memorize me in case I disappeared. It was similar to the day before, when she kept her eyes on me almost the entire time I was with her. Her parents were standing out front when we pulled up. Lisa jumped out and hugged them like she'd been gone for a long time. Why? How? Was about all her parents could say. Michael wanted to have lunch with you, so we came home. When are you coming back? Her mom asked. Lisa looked at me. I shrugged my shoulders. She looked at her mom. Never. I don't need them. We ate lunch. Then we ate dinner. It was almost midnight when I headed home. She walked me to my car. Thanks, Michael. You're welcome. Will I see you again? I don't know. I guess I can accept that now because for years I thought you hated me. You said you didn't, but I didn't believe you. But after the last 2 days, I feel in my heart that you don't. Now all I have to do is to stop hating myself. She went into the house. What am I to do now? I thought as I drove home. I had to admit that spending the day with her had brought back some good memories. But every time I looked at her, I saw her chubby belly stuffed with someone else's baby. Maybe the belly wasn't big because I don't know what size she was when she lost it, but in my imagination the belly was big. I stayed home for the next few days and worked in the yard and around the house. That calmed me down. On the third day, I called her parents. How is she? I asked. Wonderful. She looks like her old self. She asked if I'd heard from you. Maybe I'll give her a call. I had her number when she called me. She's at work again today and won't be free until 3 o'clock. Is she still staying at your place? No, she went home yesterday. Good for her. At 4, I called her. Hi. Hi. It's Michael. I could almost hear her catch her breath. Hi. I was wondering how you were doing. I'm doing fine, Michael. Thanks. Listen, if you haven't eaten yet, do you want to grab a bite at Enrique's? There was silence. Hello? Oh, I'm sorry, Michael. You just caught me off guard. I understand, maybe another time. No, no, I'd love to go. I tried again and again to figure out why and when I'd decided to take her out to dinner, but I never came up with anything. We managed to have a few laughs over the course of the evening, as well as a nice reminiscence of old friends and good times. When I drove her home, I walked her to the door. Would you like some coffee? I almost said yes, but managed to decline, saying I'd had a long day and needed to get some sleep. We snuggled together for the night. My children had been away from home long enough. I wanted them to come home. I had talked to them and their grandfather a few times, and I got the impression that they weren't ready to come home and he wasn't ready to let them go. I grinned. I talked to Ruth and told her I wanted them to come home. Daddy, we can't go home yet, she said. Big Jake is taking us on a Disney cruise. We can't miss it. What's he doing? Let me talk to him. He grabbed the phone. Yes, Michael? What's this Disney cruise thing? It goes every week. The kids would love it. Shouldn't we be talking about it? No, I'm their grandfather. I can do pretty much anything I want with them. It's in the grandparents' handbook, but they'll need passports. Can you make them overnight? Don't parents have a say? No. Only if it's a grandparent-grandchild relationship. Parents become livers. I laughed. Okay, Jake, but if something happens to them... He laughed now. I've got it all worked out, Michael. Enjoy another week at your leisure. Maybe I'd better have kids of my own. Tough shit, you lose. We both laughed. I forwarded their passports. Maybe if they were home, I'd have less reason to call Lisa. As it was, I could wait 2 more days. Hello, Michael. Hi, I was wondering if you wanted to go to the SCC on Friday. The symphony is playing there. It was Lisa who first introduced me to classical music. However, the program they would be playing consisted of Beatles compositions, but I didn't tell her that. I should have known because she knew. You do know they're playing in honor of the Beatles, don't you? She laughed, saying, It's no big deal. We don't have to go. No, I'd love to go. We often traveled to OKC for symphony concerts and stayed overnight each time. This time I wasn't going to spend the night with her. Friday morning came and Lisa called me. I can't go out with you tonight, she said. I was tempted to ask her why, but I didn't. Figured she would give me the reason herself, but she didn't. But thanks for asking. It means a lot. Maybe another time, I said. I hope so. Maybe she was getting used to me being around and forgiving her. Maybe she was finally starting to forgive herself and was getting back to the life she had before I came back. For the next 2 weeks, Lisa and I didn't communicate at all. Finally, my kids were coming home. I drove to DC and met them. Big Jake had flown in with them. I tried to talk him into coming with us for a few days, but he wanted to come home. There were a few tearful goodbyes. He and the girls were crying. Little Jake just stood there, embarrassed by the public display of affection from his sisters and grandfather. All the way home, they didn't stop talking, and I learned more about Disneyland and Disney cruises than I ever wanted to know. 2 days later, the 4 of us were at the supermarket shopping. With 3 hungry kids, food doesn't stay around for long. I sent Ruth and Carrie out to get bananas. A couple minutes later, they came back without bananas, but with Lisa. Daddy, Ruth said, Look who I found. She took the bananas too. Ruth remembered Lisa from her short stay at the hospital. Hi, I said. Hi. Are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. Good. A long, awkward pause. Well, I guess we'd better hurry up. Come on, kids. Sure, she said. Maybe I'll see you again. I watched her walk away, and part of me wanted to follow her and ask what had happened to us, but then I thought there was no us. I was just trying to help an old friend who turned out to be my ex-wife. But what I really missed was the little time we had together. And I didn't know if I missed Lisa or my kids or adult female companionship and the good stuff that comes with it. My brother Matt has a wife. Her name is Rosa. Rosa has a cousin. Her name is Francesca. Francesca and I apparently dated years ago, but I didn't remember anything about it. One night, Matt and Rosa took me out to dinner. Francesca was there. It was a pleasant evening. Francesca was attractive and charming, but there was nothing about her that made me want more. I made it clear to Matt and Rosa that their matchmaking was over for me. It wasn't that I didn't want to date someone. I did. One Saturday afternoon, my kids were with their cousins at the pool. I went to the park and sat by the lake. When I was younger, I always did this. It was my fortress of solitude. Even when the park was full, I felt alone. I thought back to my life. Marrying Lisa, meeting Connie, having an affair with her, marrying her, her death, my army career, and 3 wonderful children. I was a lucky man. I loved 2 women deeply and passionately, and came to the realization that this was the only way I could love. I had gotten to the point where it no longer seemed important to me that Lisa had cheated on me. If we hadn't gotten divorced, I never would have met Connie, and I wouldn't have my children. The reason for the divorce no longer mattered. I stood my ground. I wanted to get back to my children. I turned and almost bumped into Lisa. I've been watching you for over an hour now. You haven't moved once, she said. I imagined it. That's what I thought. You spent a lot of time here when you were trying to figure yourself out. Yes, I did. You and I used to come here and park over there. She pointed to a spot I remembered well. I remember. I smiled. We walked over to the picnic table and sat down. It's been a long couple weeks, she said. I've missed you. Yeah, me too. You know why I couldn't go to the symphony with you? I decided it was none of my business. It is your business, she paused. When we went, we stayed overnight. We'd get a hotel room and take wine and cheese with us. When the weather was nice and depending on what floor of the hotel we were on, we would turn off all the lights in the room, sit on the balcony, sip wine and snack on cheese. Then we'd go inside and make love. I remember. That's why I couldn't go. I couldn't bear the thought of sitting next to you, listening to the music and knowing that when the concert was over, we'd drive back here instead of to the hotel. We sat like that for a long time before I spoke. I can understand that, but what's happened in the last couple weeks? Honestly? Yeah. I don't trust myself around you. Truth be told, I can barely keep from touching you when I see you. For a second, we stared at each other, then looked away. Then she spoke again. I realized that you would never love me again, so I stayed away. I, like you, come here to think about a lot of things. I've seen you sitting here trying to figure things out. I'd like to know what's on your mind. I'd like to think that if we spent enough time together, you could learn to love me again. But since we're going to live in this town, I agree to at least appear to be friends. I like to think we're friends, I said. Me too. A long, empty pause followed. Well, I should get going. I came here to think, but if I stay, all I'll be thinking about is you. She started walking to her car. I sat down next to her and walked with her. Somewhere during the walk, we held hands. At the car, I opened her door and she started to get in. Lisa. She stopped and looked at me. How many men have you dated since your last divorce? She looked at me. With 3. You slept with them? With one of them. 2 times. She got in her car and drove away. I stared after her. I have no idea why I asked her that. It was none of my business and had absolutely nothing to do with the case. I drove home. It was the following Saturday. My kids were swimming with their cousins again. I was standing on the corner of 14th and Grand when someone ran a stoplight and hit me. I woke up in the hospital. My left arm was in a bandage. I looked at my mom, brother, and sister who were looking at me. Mom leaned over to kiss my cheek. She took my hand in hers. How are you feeling? Like I got hit by a truck. My brother laughed. Actually, you did. A truck with a junkie driver. We put him in jail. My mom spoke up. The doctor said you're going to be okay. You got bumps and bruises. And a dislocated shoulder, of course, but all in all, it could have been a lot worse. Later, my children visited me. The girls were crying, and Jake was fascinated by all the tubes and wires. The girls held my hands, and Jake wanted to know why there was a bag of urine hanging on my bed. I tried to explain what a catheter was, but he didn't quite get it. Ruth, as the oldest, understood, but she wrinkled her nose and made funny noises as I explained it to him. It was getting late in the evening, and I convinced everyone to leave because I wanted to be alone. I was tired of the company. Dinner that night consisted of a cheeseburger and fries. By the time they got to my room, both dishes were already cold. I was hungry, so I ate everything, even though it was cold. They gave me enough pain pills to really feel no pain. I was watching TV when I saw my door start to slowly open. I watched as she walked in and stood by my bed. How are you feeling? I've had worse. Can you get out of bed? I haven't tried. I don't think they want me to. Good. She leaned over and kissed me. A long, slow kiss that plumbed the depths of my soul and told me she really meant it. I've wanted to do this ever since I saw you here with Ruth. You can call the administration and condemn me if you want, but I did it, and I'm glad I did. After I saw you at the lake, I decided I still loved you, and if I had to break my heart, so be it. Then she left. I stayed up until 2 in the morning trying to figure out what I thought about that kiss and her statement. I pressed the control button on my combination device combining TV, nurse call, and bed control, and the top half of my bed lowered to a flat state. I knew I enjoyed her kiss, but I couldn't tell if it was because it was her or if I was so desperate that any kiss from any woman would have had the same effect. Eventually, I dozed off. When I woke up at 7, Mom was there. We asked each other, "How are you?" As usual, after which she sat on the edge of my bed, took my right hand, lifted it up and rubbed it. Then she asked, "What's going on between you and Lisa?" "What are you talking about?" I asked, letting go of her hand and pushing the button to lift the top half of the bed and return to a sitting position. When I came in, she was sitting in the chair and sleeping, covered with a blanket. Was she here all night? I don't know. It was 2 o'clock when I went to bed. She wasn't here then. Well, she woke up a minute or two later and wished me good morning. She threw back the blanket and said she was going to go check on your breakfast, and then she left. That was 15 minutes ago. At that moment, the door opened and Lisa walked in with a tray of my breakfast. She set the tray on the small table and positioned it so that the tray was right in front of me. They had scrambled eggs, but I told them you like your eggs medium rare, so they substituted it. Do you still like it that way? She took the lid off the plate and 2 perfect scrambled eggs stared back at me. I also told them you prefer ham over turkey sausage or bacon. She looked at me and smiled. Then she put the napkin on my chest and started cutting up the ham and eggs. Then she took a piece of both with her fork and brought the fork up to my mouth as if she was feeding me. What are you doing? I'm not helpless. In fact, you are helpless. Your left hand is in a sling and you are left-handed. You can't feed yourself because you'll never be able to use your right hand for anything useful, so just open your mouth like a good boy. I opened my mouth as Mom laughed. I remembered the cold cheeseburger and fries from the night before, and didn't remember having any trouble eating, but decided not to say anything. "Oh, I'm sorry, Mrs. Carter. Would you like to do that?" Still laughing, Mom said, "No, dear. You're doing just fine. I did my share of the work when he was a baby." "He's still a baby," Lisa said, wiping my mouth with a napkin. I ate everything on the tray and couldn't take my eyes off her. She let me drink my coffee alone. When I was done, she wiped my mouth with the napkin again and then kissed me again. When she left, Mom said, "Michael, you have a woman in love on your hands. What are you going to do about it?" "I have no idea," I replied, looking at the closed door. I stayed there for 2 more days and learned that she never left the hospital. At night, she slept in the chair by my bed. If something was bothering me, she wouldn't let anyone else do it. The only person allowed to feed me was Ruth, who thought it was cool. Carrie did too. Jake found it funny. The morning I was discharged, she rolled me to the exit where my brother was waiting to take me home. "Call me if you need anything," she said, leaned over and kissed me again. This is getting to be a habit, I thought, as Matt drove me away. I looked up at him, and a smirk appeared on his face. "Not a word," I said. "Not a word." He didn't say anything, but the smirk didn't go away. The first night home, I called her. "I was hoping you'd call," she said. "Thanks for your help at the hospital. Could you come over and help Ruth and Carrie make dinner? They want to, but they need a little help." She arrived 20 minutes later, and I could hear her and the girls laughing as they made dinner. Jake doesn't usually go into the kitchen except to get something out of the fridge, but it wasn't long before I heard him laughing with the others. She stayed and ate with us at the insistence of my kids. After dinner, the girls volunteered to clean up for the first time in their lives. Lisa came into the living room to chat while the girls cleaned up. Jake wasn't going to help his sisters. The girls finished, and all 3 kids went to their rooms, saying goodnight and hugging us. Even little Jake gave Lisa a hug. Lisa and I talked for a while. The kids showered and went to bed. Lisa and I were still talking. It was nearing midnight and I felt tired. "Do you want to go to bed?" She asked. She asked. She asked. "A little." "If you need help taking a shower, I'm willing to help." She smiled. Not in the shower, silly. I can wrap your sling so it doesn't get wet." "I don't need a sling. I'm not helpless," I said. "Okay," she said. "I'll go home." She got up, grabbed her purse, walked over and kissed me goodnight. Lying down and thinking was becoming a habit I didn't like, and this night was no exception. My brain was exploding with thoughts that something was wrong with Lisa. It wasn't until 2 days later that I realized what it was. She didn't smell at all like I remembered. In fact, all she smelled like was soap. Very good soap, but still soap. And never any perfume. That was it. No taboo. For the next few weeks, Lisa was at my house at least 4 times a week. The kids got used to her cooking dinner and eating with us. I liked that too. I was informed that I had gotten a permanent teaching position and classes would begin soon. I had completely forgotten about clothes and supplies for the children. We took good care of their supplies, but when it came to clothes, even Jake didn't want me to go shopping with him. One morning, we were discussing it at home, and Ruth said, "Lisa knows more than you do, Dad. She can help us. Maybe she's not available. Call her." I put her on speakerphone. Her phone rang. "Hi, Michael." "Hi. I'm in the middle of a mutiny." "Mutiny?" "Yes. It's time to buy school clothes and my 3 ragamuffins don't trust my choices." They gleefully agreed. Lisa laughed. "That's because you don't pick out clothes for girls." Ruth and Carrie nodded approvingly. "Me neither," Jake chimed in. "That's why they want you to come with us." Silence. Then I heard a snort. "Really?" She asked. "Really? If you don't have time, they'll have to deal with me." "No, I'll make time." "When?" "Now." they answered unanimously. Did you hear that? I asked. Yes, yes, I heard it. I could almost feel her smile. We picked her up and went shopping. It took all day and I'd never seen my kids have so much fun. We got home and ordered pizza for dinner. They started trying on the things they bought and we had a big party. It was getting late and I asked Lisa if she was ready to go. She looked around. The kids were still goofing around and eating what was left of the pizza. Not really, but we should probably get going. Okay, kids, I'm gonna take Lisa home. Take a shower and go to bed. You should all be asleep when I get back. We drove to her house in silence. I walked her to the door. For the first time in years, I initiated a kiss. Thanks for today, I said. Anytime. She touched my hand and smiled. Then she stepped inside. I waited a few seconds before ringing her doorbell. She opened the door immediately. It was as if she was expecting it. Can I ask you one question? I asked. Sure. Why don't you wear taboo anymore? She looked at me and tears came to both of her eyes. She took my hand. Come with me. She led me to her bedroom and dropped my hand. She walked over to her dresser and opened the bottom drawer and pulled out a box. She put it on the bed and opened it. It contained our wedding album, her rings, her marriage certificate, and a stack of letters. Last in the box was a half-filled bottle of taboo. I sealed this bottle the day I asked you for a divorce. It was your perfume, the bottle you bought for me. I haven't used that or any other perfume since. She put the file back in the box and put the box away in a drawer. I'll put it on again when you ask. I took her hand and walked to the front door. When we reached it, I opened the door and turned to face her. I took both of her hands in mine. There's a concert at the CCM on Friday night. I'd like you to come with me and wear this. She looked at me. Her eyes got big and she started to cry. I don't remember her ever crying so hard. I didn't know anyone had ever had so many tears. She couldn't stop, so I went back into the house, closed the door, and hugged her. It took her a long time to stop. When she stopped, she reached into the right back pocket of my pants and pulled out a handkerchief that she must have remembered I always had. She stood up and wiped her eyes. Really? She asked. Seriously? You're not kidding. No kidding. Should I get an overnight bag? She asked the question in a way that almost begged me to say yes. I smiled. Just a toothbrush. You won't need clothes. She pounced on me and sealed me into her front door. Friday afternoon, I picked her up. She was beautiful and dressed in taboo. The ride was peaceful. The symphony was, well, I'm not sure what she was because I wasn't paying attention. I was just looking at Lisa, who was looking at me. About 20 minutes into the program, she leaned over to me and whispered, "You know, we don't have to listen to all of this," I whispered back. I know, but the anticipation makes it more exciting. I'm tired of the anticipation. I want to do this with you. Shh, came from the row behind us. Get a room. From the row in front of us. Good idea. I stood up, took her hand, and we walked toward the exit. 30 minutes later, we were in our room. I was shaking. She was shaking. It seemed like the whole room was shaking. I walked over to her and put my arms around her. Would you like some champagne? I asked softly in her ear. No, all I want is you. Anticipation, I said. We got right down to business and fell asleep after a while. I was where I was supposed to be. I woke up to her lying next to me. I smiled. The ride home was like old times. We were young lovers again. I drove her home, but we had a little fun before we left. A few days later, Lisa came over to our house for dinner. I bought steaks and shrimp for the grill. As soon as Lisa walked into the house, the kids rushed to hug her. When Ruth reached her, she stopped and looked at her. You smell like my mom, Ruth told her. What? Lisa asked. You smell like my mom. She used the same perfume. Lisa looked at me with narrowed eyes. The rest of the meal, instead of being fun, passed in tension. The kids didn't notice it, but I certainly didn't. Every time I looked at Lisa, she let loose arrows at me. Finally, dinner was over. "I have to go," Lisa said. "I'll walk you to your car," I said. I tried to take her hand as we walked to her car, but she recoiled. I opened the door in front of her and she turned to face me. I thought it was me, but it wasn't me. It was her. "You didn't want me. You wanted her back. That's why you asked me about the perfume. You just wanted a part of her back." "That's not true. Of course I like—" "No, I adore the perfume, but you were the first person to try it. For that matter, I probably liked them because of you." She got in her car and drove away. A whole month passed, and she still wouldn't give me a chance to talk to her. She blocked my number, and a couple times when I went to her house to talk, she wouldn't open the door. One time I saw her at the mall, but she went the other way. The kids couldn't understand it, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't explain it. One Saturday night, the kids and I went to a movie. It was some girly movie that Ruth and Carrie wanted to see, and Jake and I couldn't stand. The movie hadn't started yet, and the lights were already on in the auditorium. "Isn't that Lisa?" Carrie asked. I looked back. She was walking down the aisle to her seat. She was followed by a man who sat next to her. "Yes, that's her," I said. "Can we go say hi?" she asked. "I don't think so, dear." The lights went out and the movie started. Whenever the light from the movie got bright enough, I looked over to where she was sitting. Once I saw them taking turns sucking through the same straw in the drink glass. When the movie was over, we walked out. The girls awed, and Jake stuck his finger in his mouth and made gagging noises. In the lobby, Lisa and her date spotted us. She walked over and said hello to the kids. She did not introduce her companion or speak to me. As they were leaving, I heard him ask who we were. "This is my ex and his family," she told him. Life went on. Christmas vacation had just started, and I was trying to finish my Christmas shopping. My mom, my brother and his family, and my sister and her family were all taken care of. I still wanted to do more for my kids, so I walked around the mall. I ended up going into the only men's store in the mall. There were several stores for women, but only one for men. I was looking at suits because mine were getting old and a little worn out. The salesman walked around me. I didn't need anyone to do that, but I didn't bother stopping her. After I saw everything I wanted, I thanked her and started to leave. Lisa was standing by the big open door as I was leaving. I started to just walk around her, but she spoke up. "Did you find anything you liked?" "What's it to you?" I kept walking. She was close enough to me that I could tell she wasn't wearing taboo. "Do you want to talk?" she asked. "I don't think we have anything to discuss." I continued walking. "You said enough when you accused me of not wanting you but wanting Connie back. If you want to talk, you can talk to your boyfriend. He's just a friend. Obviously a good friend. Good enough to share a straw with him." She was still a step or two behind me, but caught up and grabbed my arm. "What are you talking about?" I snapped out of it and kept walking. "I saw you in the movie using the same straw to drink your drink." He dropped his glass and we shared ours. What's wrong with that? Casual friends don't do that. That's what close friends or lovers do. She stopped walking. I didn't stop. "What are you trying to say?" "You heard every word I said. You're smart. You understand English." I continued walking. She hurried to catch up with me. "You're accusing me of—" I stopped and turned to look at her. "Are you having fun with him?" "What? Are you hard of hearing? What right do you have to ask me that?" When I'd asked her at the lake how many men she'd dated since her divorce and whether she was having fun with them, she'd answered without hesitation, but now she was getting defensive. "I have no right to do this, but I thought we were getting to the point where—" Screw it. I have to go." And I turned to leave. She grabbed my arm and stopped me. "I'll sleep with whoever I want to sleep with. Do you understand that? I don't belong to you and I never have." You're right. You've never belonged to me. You've always slept with whoever you wanted. Even getting married didn't stop you. I stood up, took her hand away, and went home. The kids and I had a very nice Christmas. Matt and Rose were invited to a New Year's Eve party at a neighbor's house. They asked me to go with them, and I, which was totally unlike me, agreed. We didn't make it to the house before Lisa and a man I recognized from the movie showed up. I told Matt I was leaving and explained the reason. Jesus, Michael, are you going to run away every time you see her with someone? Grow some balls, kid, and get back in the game. It was the best advice I'd ever gotten, and I followed it. I grabbed a beer and started socializing. Eventually, I found myself in a small group and we were joined by Lisa, who happened to know most of them. They had no idea that Lisa and I had a history, and we didn't let on in any way that we knew each other. "How's Timmy?" someone asked. "He's fine," Lisa replied. "He's out there drinking." "Is he a keeper?" one of the ladies asked. I wasn't looking directly at her, but I felt her looking at me and turned around. Our eyes were locked on each other as she answered. "Maybe. For someone." She apologized and stepped back. "They seem like a cute couple," someone in the group said. "Yeah, but something's not right. Timmy's a little upset. He likes her, but apparently she has some issues and he doesn't know if it's worth the wait. He says she treats him like a brother." "Problems? What kind?" "For example, he's never been to her house. They've been dating for a while and he's never been to her house." "Yeah, but I bet she's been to his house a lot," one of the guys said, and the men laughed. The women didn't laugh. You're an asshole," one of the women said and slapped him on the arm. "You men are all the same. Didn't you hear what she just said? She said he's probably a kept man for someone. That means she's not interested in a long-term relationship with him and is probably carrying the torch for someone else. It means she's not sleeping with him." Oh shit. Unrequited love, the worst kind imaginable. "I feel sorry for him," someone else said. "But that doesn't mean he doesn't entertain her," another added. "She's not entertaining anyone. She's been my friend for a long time and we work together at the hospital. Every now and then she starts crying and neither of us know why. Personally, I think it's her asshole ex-husband. She still loves him and he must be treating her like shit." "How do you know that?" I interjected. "I don't know exactly, but I do know she has a picture of him hanging in her work locker and, oh my god, that's you. You're her ex." Everyone murmured, talking amongst themselves and throwing glances at me. I left them and headed to my car. On the way, I passed Matt. "I'm leaving," I told him. Lisa and Timmy were standing at the kitchen counter with another couple. Our gazes met as I walked past them. I was almost to the car when I turned around and walked back. I walked over to them. She was just wiping her eyes. "Excuse me, but I'd like to talk to you," I said to Lisa. "Why? To accuse me of having fun with every man in town?" "I just want to ask you one question." A pause. "Please?" "I'm sorry, Timmy. I'll be right back." We stepped out onto the sidewalk. "That's far enough away. Ask your question." "Actually, there are several. 1. Do you have a picture of me in your locker at work?" She looked back toward the house. "Well, yes." She turned away from me. "Why?" She hesitated for a long moment. "This is important, Lisa. Please answer." She turned to face me. "Because I love you." "Then why didn't you tell me?" "Because you're an asshole." "Okay, I'm an asshole. But I'm an asshole who loves you." Her eyes got huge for a second, then narrowed. "I don't know whether to believe you. It's true. You accused me of sleeping with Timmy." "I don't care anymore. I cheated on you, and another man got me pregnant. That was long ago and far away. Once you forgive me, you'll never be able to bring it up and throw it in my face again. I've already forgiven you." There on the street, she pounced on me, just like she had back then at her house. We hugged and kissed. 2 cars drove by and honked. She put her hands on my face. The last man I slept with besides you was the one I told you about at the lake, one of the 3 men I dated after my divorce. Timmy and I are friends. Nothing more than that. He wants more, but I can't and I never could. We started walking back to the party. Timmy was standing in the doorway. We walked over to him. "I'm sorry, Timmy," she said. "I understand." He looked at me. "I think you're taking her home, so there's no reason for me to stick around." He left. The party took an interesting turn when Lisa and I entered the hall hand in hand. There was a lot of whispering and pointing. When Matt saw us, he just started laughing. We stood like that for another 30 minutes. By midnight, we were in her bed and doing our own stroking. She became an almost regular guest at our house, but she never stayed overnight, and I never stayed overnight at her house. Except, of course, for those weekends when the kids stayed overnight at one of their cousins' houses. Depending on what shift she worked, Lisa and the girls would often cook dinner, and on those nights, Lisa would usually stay up until midnight. She worked nights, and one morning after her shift, I picked her up from work and brought her to my house. It was a Saturday morning and the girls made breakfast for us. After the 5 of us ate, Lisa and I did the dishes. She stayed up for another couple hours. I could see how tired she was, so I took her to her room and told her to get a few hours of sleep. I closed the door and turned to go back into the living room. Ruth was standing there. "Do you love Lisa?" she asked. "What's the matter with you, nosy?" "Answer my question, Daddy." "Okay, yes I do." "More than you do, Mom." "Oh goodness no, dear. It's a different kind of love." "Different how?" "Let me try to explain." I paused, took a deep breath, took her hand, and walked down the hallway to the living room, telling her as I went, "Do you love your brother?" "Of course." "And your sister?" "Don't be silly, Daddy, of course I do." "What about me? What about your grandfather?" "What's your point, Dad?" "My point is that we can love different people, and that love takes different forms. But that doesn't mean we love one person more than another. It just means we love them in different ways. Do you understand?" "I think I do." "Being an adult sucks so much, doesn't it?" "Only if you let yourself," I laughed. Lisa slept until noon and then spent the rest of the day with us. Late that night, I drove her to the hospital so she could pick up her car and drive home. The next morning, I heard Ruth and Carrie talking before breakfast, but I couldn't make out the words. As usual, Jake was only interested in breakfast. Ruth and Carrie came to the table. Carrie spoke first. "Are you going to marry Lisa again?" she asked. "I'd like to, but a lot depends on the 3 of you." "Why on us?" Ruth asked. "Well, if I ask her to marry me and she says yes, that would mean she would move here and live with us." "And you'll sleep in the same bed?" Carrie asked. "Of course we will, Goose. Married people always sleep together unless they're mad at each other," said Ruth. "How do you know that?" I asked. "Daddy," she said as if I was the biggest dumbass in the world, "how many kids at my school do you think live with both biological parents?" I shrugged. "Less than half. Don't they teach you stuff like that in college?" "I must have missed that class," I muttered. Little Jake spoke up. "If you marry her and she lives here, does that mean she'll cook for us all the time?" "At least part of the time," I told him. "But we'll have to do our part. She'll be a wife and stepmother, not a housekeeper or a slave." "That's fine with me," he said. Ruth and Carrie seconded his words. The kids and I spent a week picking out a ring. I thought about getting her old rings out of the jewelry box in her room, but decided we would start with a new ring. The day we bought them, Ruth called her and asked her to come over. When she arrived, 3 children ran out into the driveway and almost forcefully pulled her out of the car and into the house. They took her out to the middle of the living room and told her to stand here and don't move. Then they just stood there waiting for me. "What's going on?" Lisa asked. "Daddy wants to ask you something," replied little Jake, almost choking with laughter as his sisters tried to shut him up. I was in my room trying to calm down. I had no doubt that I wanted to marry her, but one thing she said made me think. Once you forgive me, you can never bring it up and throw it in my face. It was true. My parents taught me that once you give someone a gift, you can't take it back, and it's none of your business what they do with it. If they want to give it to someone else, they are free to do so. They also taught me what Lisa told me. Once you forgive someone, no matter what they've done, you can't take it back and you can never bring it up. So you better be sure you really want to forgive them. As little Jake once said, I'm okay with that. I walked into the living room and she stood looking at my three troublemakers, wondering what was going on. Or maybe she knew or at least suspected. After a few seconds, I made sure she guessed nothing, because as soon as I got down on one knee, she fainted. I never asked her because as soon as she regained consciousness, she started saying, yes, 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 yes. The wedding took place 5 months later. It was the third time her father had given her in marriage. The second time, he gave her to me. I don't want to do it again, he said at the altar. You don't have to, I told him. It's forever. I smiled, looking at her and breathing in nearly 20 years of taboo. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Subscribe to my channel and stay tuned for the next videos.